Church over the last several months has been an interesting topic. Certainly something interesting to observe with everyone trying to figure out what to do when you can't physically meet. Now, it's been said that church is not the building, so this was a real test of that. What is the church's job or purpose if we can't get together? Now, in the past, I've described church as kind of a locker room pep talk, at least to me, where coach reminded us of the fundamentals back in the locker room, then fired us up by saying things like, "I've seen you play way better than this. Now go out there and play," and we all charged back out to play another week's worth of life. I also think that church is like being spoon-fed, and there's nothing wrong with that. But everyone should come, but if you don't go home and feed yourself and work out yourself, you're never going to grow beyond infancy. Going back to the sports analogy, you can't learn how to play a sport from locker room pep talks alone. So it was one part of the equation. However, now since church as we know it has been taken away from us, if you will, what exactly has been taken away? Is there anything actually missing? Now, if you're like me, you've felt some kind of loss. Something is in fact missing, but it's been difficult to define. Truthfully, sitting on the couch and eating breakfast in my pajamas while watching church online was pretty sweet. And yet at the end, I was still left feeling kind of empty. I just couldn't put my finger on what exactly was missing. In fact, as I step back and look at my life as a whole these past 3 months, if I had to describe what I was feeling, it fits the description of depression more than anything. Apathy, hopelessness, fatigue, not enjoying anything anymore, just general deep unhappiness along with a heavy dose of irritability. Ask my family. It's pretty strange as I'm usually a pretty upbeat kind of person. Now, there's a verse that comes to mind in Hebrews 10:25. Let's see how inventive we can be in encouraging, love, and helping out, not avoiding worshiping together, or in some translations, gathering together, as some do, but spurring each other on, especially as we see the big day approaching. Now, there's got to be a reason we are encouraged to keep getting together. Perhaps church is as much about what our team members say to us as it is what coach says to us in the locker room. This past Sunday was my first Sunday back in church after 3 months. I think that's the longest I've ever been away from church my entire life. And truthfully, there was a lot of conflict in my head Saturday evening and Sunday morning. So here are the top 5 arguments I had going through my head not to go to church. Some of them are stupid, all right? Just giving you a heads up. Number 1, I have to shower and get dressed. It's the honest truth. Number 2, I have to wear a mask. I didn't really know if I did have to or not, but it was just one more thing I had to think of. Number 3, is it really that big of a deal to be there in person, or can't I just listen to a quick message and be done? These are the kind of thoughts that are going through my head. Number 4, my couch is really comfortable. And number 5, I have to talk to people. That's right. Even someone who loves talking to people as much as I do, I have my introverted side as well. Nevertheless, I decided to get up and go, partially blaming it on the fact that it would be good for my kids. This video is my attempt to take you along and share with you completely candidly the struggles I had in returning to church and perhaps a few lessons learned along the way. I'm going to be completely transparent and share with you my inner monologue, even if I was putting on a friendly face. So here we go. So we made it out the door. My wife was on a road trip, so it was just me and the kids. Pulling into the parking lot felt oddly familiar and foreign, especially since during the lockdown, they've started a building project making the outside look completely different. And we humans are funny with change. Walking up to the door, I felt a tinge of nervousness, which was strange. I've been attending here for 6 years now, and yet 3 months away made me feel a bit like a visitor. I waved hello to familiar eyes behind a mask, which was also weird, and entered the building. I was promptly greeted by more smiling eyes and masks. Everyone was very nice. I was awkwardly not knowing if I should hug or, like I usually do, fist bump the pastor. Do you do that? Or awkwardly wave from across the room. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot to process. This was not church as I knew it. Everything had changed. And yet, somewhere under all of the noise in my head, processing all the change and taking it in, it felt really good to be, well, quite frankly, just to be out, and then to be with other people, and then to see people that I belong to, my people, People who, when faced with life and its challenges, fight the same way I do. I was not alone, and that felt really good. Okay, so it was time to go through our routine of finding a seat and settling in and let the service start. So as we entered the sanctuary, all the rows were really far apart, and that was weird. More change. I slapped a gentleman on the shoulder who I was particularly happy to see, and they responded awkwardly. Then I remembered, oh, am I supposed to touch anybody now or not? I couldn't, there's more to think about. We settled on a spot close to where we normally used to sit, because we're creatures of habit, and the service began. So this felt a bit more familiar. Our regular worship leader and band were on stage, we sang songs I knew, and our pastor greeted us. The message was good. Honestly, my mind was in so many places I found it hard to concentrate on the content of the message itself, but I do remember that the subject was who is God, and specifically whether His grace is good enough for us. Can we be content, keyword, even when our prayers appear not to be answered? Can we find His peace in the midst of all? So it seemed like a very timely message. It was great. Oh, a solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Pathetic, I know, we shouldn't rate the services. So after the service, I reconnected with a few people, got up to date on how they and their families were doing, and then I realized I'd left my kids back in youth way longer than I should. It was time to go pick them up, so I hurried back there. However, they were disappointed to see me and asked if they could stay for a whole nother service. Honestly, I kind of identified with it. I didn't want to go home quite yet, but we did anyway. So looking back on the whole experience of returning to church, a position I never really expected to be in, I have a few observations, especially in light of those 5 arguments that I had floating around in my head, telling me not to go. Number 1, getting showered and dressed feels pretty good. We should just get up and do it. Number 2, wearing a mask is not the end of the world, and in this case, I didn't even have to. Maybe I should have, but the point is, it was a non-issue. It's funny the things that we deal with in our head. Number 3, while church in my pajamas with an egg sandwich is pretty comfortable, it's just being a spectator. I'm not on the team when I'm on my couch. Number 4, I have a new appreciation for locker room pep talks. Nothing in the message that I heard on Sunday was new or life-changing, but it felt so good to hear Coach repeat back to me what the basics of the game are and encourage me to go out there and play hard. Man, that felt really good. The 5th one was solo sports are lonely. Playing on a team is amazing. Even if I have to overcome my inner introvert, there's nothing like many moving as one. Or if you've ever sung in a choir, that first time you all sing in harmony, being a part of that is almost supernatural. So that was my returning to church experience. I hope you enjoyed coming along, and I hope perhaps I was able to help you navigate what many people, including myself, are feeling in this weird time. I think the lesson learned is go back to church, play on the team, score some points, and make sure you have someone to celebrate with.